shit, we about to get classical AF in this joint. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live with me, Chase Lee, one of your co-hosts, and the other co-host being Brian Sudfield. On this episode, we will take a look at our top 5 favorite Sony Pictures Classics. They've done a lot since their inception, and it's going to be interesting to kind of whittle it down to our favorite 5. We're going to do it in honor of Brigsby Bear that has opened up. So what will Brian and I put on our list? We're going to have to sit down, relax, and find out. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live with me, Chase Lee, and my co-host,
Brian Sudfield.
That's fucking right. And hey, listen, guys, if you're new to the show, welcome. What we typically do is we take a look at some of the movies coming out on the weekend and whatnot. We will pick a movie and we will honor it, put it on a fucking pedestal, and we will graze it with, just love and support. And we'll make a top 5 list honoring said movie. It will be a lot of fun. So that's what we typically do. And the cool thing about the show is that it's live, so we have no idea what the hell is going to come out of our mouths, and we don't know each other's lists, so it's quite magical indeed. It's probably the best top 5 podcast on the face of the planet. Like, not even the internet, just the planet in general. So that is the tout I'm going to have on this show. So all right. So before we get into our topic, Brian, how are we doing on this episode?
I'm doing very, very good. How are you, Chase?
Oh, just another week. This is actually a true fact. I was so tired today when I was walking back home. I think I fell asleep for a good 20-30 seconds before I realized I was falling asleep while walking. So kids, there's your PSA. If you think you can walk to work or school or wherever, just know that your energy will be depleted in a few months. So that is how that is going for sure. I saw Good Time. What was it, a couple days ago? That was a really good little film. If you guys want to check out my full review on that, that's on my channel. But everything's going pretty well. But I'm excited because this episode we're going to be honoring some pretty awesome movies that are probably going to go down as some of the best in history, and I don't mean that lightly. So Brian, what movie are we honoring, and what list are we doing?
We are honoring Brigsby Bear, which is one of the critically acclaimed indie darlings of the summer. I have not seen it yet. It just came to my theater actually this past weekend, so I'm going to try watching it very, very soon. So we are going to be honoring the films that are distributed by the studio that distributed this movie, Sony Pictures Classics, which is something that's very exciting. Like Chase said, most of these films will probably go down as classics. We highly guarantee it. This company has made so many great films, similar to A24 and Fox Searchlight. I mean, this studio has released a plethora of diverse films, whether it be comedies, drama, action, sci-fi, adventure. This studio is incredible. They've released some of my favorite indies of the last basically 19 years, ever since I was born. They even released some great films before I was born, and this studio is pretty on a high pedestal because they've won a lot of awards when it comes to their screenplay, actors, what have you. A few of their films have been nominated for Best Picture, and yeah, I'm really excited. This studio is one of my favorites in the business, and I always get excited / interested in whatever films they do. I've yet to see a film from them that I dislike. There are some that I'm like, meh, towards, but for the most part, I love most of the stuff that Sony Pictures Classics release.
Yeah, you know what's really weird about this sub company of Sony is that this sub company is actually better than Sony movies, actual Sony movies. I mean, I'm not even joking. Maybe the Jump Street franchise and maybe Spider-Man Homecoming and maybe a couple others sprinkled here and there. But Sony, if they did not have Spider-Man, they'd be in the shit right now. But even though their Sony Pictures Classics films don't really make too much money, they still are quality films, and I'm glad that they actually have that subdivision like most studios have. Case in point, Disney has Touchstone / Miramax, which by the way, Pulp Fiction, an R-rated film by Miramax, is a Disney film. There you go. There's your fact for the day. Warner Brothers has Warner Premiere, I believe. Let's see. Paramount's got Paramount Vintage. Who else is on the block? That's all I can think of right now. But Sony Pictures Classics is definitely like one of the bigger kind of sub studios that primarily focus on indie films and distribution of independent media. So, yeah, I'm excited to jump into this because Brigsby Bear was quite special, but we'll get to that in just a second. So I'm going to start with you, Brian. What is your number 5 favorite Sony Pictures Classics film of all time so far?
You know what's funny? When I first saw this movie, like I knew who was in it and who directed it, but I didn't realize that Sony Pictures Classics distributed a sci-fi film, so I'm going with Moon as my number 5.
Okay.
Yes, okay indeed. Moon is incredible. It was the directorial debut of Duncan Jones, who later went on to direct Source Code and Warcraft. This is the son of the late, great David Bowie. This stars Sam Rockwell as an astronaut, and that's all you need to know. It's a psychologically mind-bending film. It's really depressing, and Sam Rockwell, in my opinion, gave one of the best performances of that year. I thought he should have been nominated for an Oscar. I don't know why he still hasn't gotten an Oscar nomination. There are 2 films in my book where I think he should have gotten nominated for, this and The Way, Way Back. This film is absolutely haunting. It's really beautiful, and then you have Kevin Spacey as the voice of the Chase. What was it? What did Kevin Spacey voice?
His name was Gertie or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah. He basically, like, Kevin Spacey basically voiced his computer system, and he's like, Kevin Spacey's got one of those voices to where like he sounds just like a computer when he doesn't have any enthusiasm in his voice. It's like, take Frank Underwood, take out the accent, there you go.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like, that voice just fits so natural, and since it's just really them two in the movie, it really does work, and it gets under your skin, like, drastically. And the way the film wraps up, don't want to spoil it, of course, but is one of the most mind-boggling endings I've ever seen in cinema, and it's a beautiful film. It's so underrated, and a lot of people need to check it out, because I feel like Duncan Jones, I mean, Warcraft was not very good. It was very disappointing. Because this and Source Code are fantastic. So, yeah, but everyone should check out Moon. It's pretty awesome for Sony Pictures Classics to distribute a sci-fi film. It's similar to the way of how I found out they distributed Layer Cake, which was, I believe, Matthew Vaughn's first movie. That's an action film. And then both Raid films, which are also action films. So it's interesting to see Sony Pictures Classics not just do like normal films, but also like sci-fi and action. I think it's awesome. So yeah, Moon is my number 5.
Yeah, Moon was one of those films I took a gamble on in 2009. I actually, I think I saw it in Dallas at one of our art house theaters down the road, and I just remember walking out of it going, man, that was just a really good film. And what's weird about it is, if I were to make a top 10 list of that year, that would have been on there. And you think when you see a movie that's like super awesome, you just assume that everyone else has got it on their top 10 list. This is one of those films that flew under the radar. Like, there was only like a handful of people that actually considered this as one of the best films of the year, and no one else talked about it. I do think it's very underrated indeed. And, you know, with Duncan Jones, I'm sorry to admit, but like, this is the best thing he's done, and this was the first thing he did. Warcraft, no thank you, and then Source Code was a fine movie, but Moon is where it's at. But I don't want to talk about it because I'll pass on it. But yeah, Moon was one of those experiences I definitely remember in theaters for sure. But my number 5, fuck it, I'm going with the one we're honoring. Listen, when you see a movie, Brian and people out there listening, our beautiful listeners, when you watch a movie and it sticks with you for months, that's a good sign that it's probably going to stick for a long time. I can't wait to watch it again. I mean, Brian knows this. I can now say it to to everyone on the air, and of course Brian. I told him months ago, but I wasn't supposed to. But whoops, it's out now, so you don't know if I did that or not, Internet. Yeah, I saw Brigsby Bear back in April, and we were supposed to kind of hold on it for 4 months. Had no idea when it was going to come to Dallas, and they just wanted to kind of test it in front of critics to see how it was reacted. I loved it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was charming. I thought it had like this unique kind of quirky style that definitely kind of set itself apart from every other film I saw this year. I thought the performances were really great. Kyle Mooney on the damn couch at the end of the movie kills me every single time I think about it. It's a movie about innocence and how it's like watching a child being stripped away from just the world, being placed in a different environment, and only to kind of cling on to that one thing that reminds him of home. Like, it's stuff that you can relate to. And I know that Kyle Mooney in the movie plays like a mid-20s type of person, but he's still got that charm and that likability that you want in a character like this who doesn't really know the world that much. And the thing is with him is he could easily become annoying, but you follow him from start to finish. You want him to complete his mission, and when at the end of the film, when it all kind of wraps up, you're like, wow, that was actually kind of heartfelt and kind of sweet. And I just, listen, I saw it back in April. I want to see it again. I want to own this thing. And since I'm not a Star Wars nut, this will probably be my favorite Mark Hamill movie of the year. So there you go. No, I really enjoyed Brigsby Bear, and you know what, an extra little gold touch that this movie had was yes, Sony Pictures Classics distributed the film, but this was also my favorite thing. The Lonely Island has slapped their name on. Apparently, this was also a Lonely Island classic, according to their new banner, which was a really great way to start out the movie. It just kind of made me chuckle because Lonely Island, that ragtag group of people, they've made Hot Rod and Popstar, and of course, they worked on SNL and whatnot. So they are very well known in the comedy world, and I actually like everything that they've touched when they come together as a group. And so the fact that they were behind this and they produced this and they kind of brought it to the forefront just gives me hope that they are going to find more quirky comedies like this, like comedy dramedies, and really kind of put it on a bigger pedestal. So I got to go with the one that we're honoring. Listen, I got a list right here of ones that I wanted to put on here, but if I got to be honest, all these movies on my list are good, but Brigsby Bear is the one I remember. So that is my number 5.
I'm so excited to watch it. I've been wanting to watch this since I heard about it at Sundance early this year, and since I'm a huge Star Wars fan, I was like, which is going to be the better Mark Hamill movie this year? Is it going to be this or The Last Jedi? I feel like I'm going to like this more. I already have a feeling this movie is going to be in my top 10 of the year. It sounds like a Brian Suffield movie, so it sounds wonderful. So yeah, I'm stoked for it.
I think you're going to really dig it. It's got that style of kind of dry humor, and just it's the right mix of comedy and drama. I think you would really enjoy. And listen, like I said, I saw it in April, and it's still in my top 10. I believe it's number 3 right now. It's really funny because number 1 is Logan, number 2 is A Ghost Story, and then this one is Brigsby Bear. So it's a very interesting group, and I really have liked the amount of quirk this year so far. So yeah, that is my number 5. So whenever Brian sees it, I'm sure I will interview him on the show whenever he does see it, and I'll ask him what he thought of it. So, all right, so let's get to number 4. What do you got?
Number 4, now this is quite interesting because there's been one director that has collaborated with the studio for many of his films. Yes, it's a he, and he has, I believe, done it since 2000, and the last film he did with the studio was in 2015. Who am I talking about? Talk about Woody Allen. Which film am I talking about? It's easily the best thing he's ever done, in my opinion. Midnight in Paris.
Okay, so that was on my list of movies I have seen from this company. Couldn't put it on there, but I will back whatever Brian's about to say up because that was a pleasant surprise back in 2011.
Yeah, it's a huge surprise for people who don't know what this is about. So it follows a screenwriter named Gil, played by Owen Wilson. He is in Paris with his fiancée, played by Rachel McAdams, mirroring Regina George, basically as an adult. This guy is obsessed with Paris and just writing and everything, just storytelling. So what happens is he's walking around one night drunk. He gets in this car and he's sent back to the 1920s. And basically every single night he goes back to the 20s, hangs out with all these writers, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway. This is like a filmmaker's movie. I think this is the best thing Woody Allen's ever done. I think this is the best modern Woody Allen movie. That's not to say that I don't like any of his original work. Annie Hall is incredible. Manhattan is great. Hannah and Her Sisters is great. You know, this Woody Allen's been making films for the last almost 50 years. This guy's been making films since my parents were kids. So, you know, this guy has been making films for a long time, and he still goes. He makes a film every single year. He has one coming out later this year with Kate Winslet. I mean, this guy doesn't stop, and he's in his 80s. Like, this guy's like Clint Eastwood. He doesn't stop making movies. So I gotta commend the man, and this is probably the best thing he's done in a long time. The writing is just so strong. The dialogue is incredible. It won the Oscar for Best Screenplay. And it's just so rich and vibrant, and you feel like you're in the 20s when you watch this movie. And Owen Wilson gives a really incredible performance. Wow, I'm in the 20s. Wow, ka-chow. So, you know, it's just a great movie all around. And the cast, like the brilliant ensemble cast, is wonderful. It's one of my favorite films of the decade, and it was one of my favorite films of 2011. I think it was my number. It was in my top 5. I remember it was very high up. I think my number 1 that year was 50-50, and then this was number 4. I think it was very high up. I remember that. But Midnight in Paris, if you're someone who hasn't gotten into Woody Allen's films yet, this is a good one to start off with. Even though, you know, it's one of his more recent works, it's still a really good one to start off with, because honestly, this is one that anyone can enjoy. Because I've seen some Woody Allen films that may not appeal to others. This one, though, is perfect for anyone. It has a good amount of comedy, good amount of drama, good amount of fantasy elements. It's really original, and it's probably his most original film to date. I love it. I think it's just all around fantastic. Midnight in Paris is my number 4.
Yeah, it's a very whimsical type of film to where, like, it captures the magic of going to the movies, like that pure fantasy escapism. And ironically about the film is that it comes out in 2011, set in modern time, but when he goes back in time to the 1920s, the whole vibe of the movie actually feels like a movie from like the 1920s or 30s or whatever. Like you would go back in the day, pay a fucking nickel or whatever, show your leg. I don't fucking know what prostitutes did, but whatever they did, they you know, see movies back in the day. Like this movie definitely fits that era where we're just the pure magic of going to the movies. So I totally agree with that. Another one that's also not on my list, but Woody Allen also did, that Sony Pictures Classic distributed, was Blue Jasmine. So
yes,
he's had a lot of great modern hits for sure. So my number 4 is a very weird one, but that's okay. The writer of it is very fucking weird. So, but he is definitely one of my favorite writers, because no matter what he does, I just always get fascinated, because he doesn't take like a movie and make it as normal as possible. He tries to make it insanely weird and just definitely a movie that stands out for sure. His whole catalog is like this, and I believe, the majority of his films, except for the last one he was associated with that I really enjoyed at Fantastic Fest in 2015, but I haven't gotten to it. But I'm going to go with one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's best movies, Schenectady, New York. I can't pronounce it because I am illiterate. But that is the film that Charlie Kaufman wrote, and it definitely has that Charlie Kaufman flair to it. Whether you see Being John Malkovich or Adaptation, or hell, even Anomalisa, the guy definitely has a knack for creative writing for sure. He never does anything normal, but that's what makes him him. Schenectady. I don't even know how to fucking pronounce it. It's you know which poster I'm talking about whenever you see it, or DVD case or whatever. So, but this one stars Philip Seymour Hoffman, Catherine Keener. They're married. And so he's kind of like a paranoid dude, kind of always like he's almost like OCD. She's kind of carefree, so you know the marriage is not going to work out. He eventually tackles a play that's based on his life, and he works on it for years and years while he tries to figure out his own life. And one of the major kind of villains in this film is time, and how time can just ultimately destroy us and really just ultimately kill us. And so life is short, basically. Like, try to make your life as great as you can without fucking up too bad. But then again, we're humans, we like to fuck stuff up, so there's definitely a lot of drama that ensues in this film. There's a lot of like meta comedy as well, which I found really kind of cool. But that's Charlie Kaufman style. If you want to watch some like hilarious Charlie Kaufman isms, just watch Adaptation, where Nicolas Cage is talking to himself. It's absolutely wonderful, because he plays both brothers in that film. But yeah, this one is definitely one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's best roles, for sure. He just has this gradual transformation from the beginning of the film to the end of the film, and you absolutely feel for this guy. Like, the determination to finish this fucking play, you understand, you grasp, but then you just realize time is killing him, and he will not survive, like, at all. And you kind of have a bad feeling in your stomach that he will never finish his play, because he has so many problems outside of the play. It's a very weird movie, but I bought it on a whim. I watched it. I liked it a lot. I then watched an analyze video from Your Movie Sucks, and that motherfucker breaks it down like twofold. Like, he's still trying to break it down, and it's been many, many years of dissecting it. And when you listen to him talk about it, what's weird about the movie is when you watch it, you know that you like it, but you can't really put it into words why you can, because it's so out there and so different. But once Your Movie Sucks starts talking about it, he really starts bringing up like what he thinks everything means, and like how everything kind of flows with him. And you're like, that's exactly what I was fucking thinking, but I'm too dumb and stupid to come up with that. So I listen to smarter people that are way smarter than me, and I listen to them dissect it, because whatever I'm thinking, they're speaking, and I'm like, fuck yes, that's what I was talking about. So, or at least trying to say. Please watch it. I think if you like Philip Seymour Hoffman, the late great Hoffman, go check it out. It is one of those ones that not many people talk about in his filmography, but I really enjoy it. I don't know if it's my favorite Kaufman film. I mean, everything he's done is just so great. It's hard to choose, but it's definitely up there for me, and it's definitely my fourth favorite SPC distributed film.
Yeah, I've never seen this one. It's probably, I think, the only Charlie Kaufman picture I have not watched yet. I do want to check it out. I'm actually a little terrified to watch it, because I knowing me, I'm probably not going to like this one, but, you never know. I never know, because there are times where I watch a movie where I think I'm not going to like it, then I do like it, or vice versa.
Just remember, Brian, if you watch it, you're probably going to get it way more than I did, because like I said,
I would not say that. And I wouldn't say that.
Well, because like what Charlie Kaufman does in his movies is that he'll drop like hints and like actual like themes that are happening in the film, like very blatantly. And when you watch this movie, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you're like, oh, that's a literal metaphor for that, or that's a metaphor for that. So I understood that stuff, but then like some of the other stuff, it's like it's so complex that was like my brain was shattered, and I was like, I can't even put this shit into words. And then when you, like I said, just watch Your Movie Sucks.org's series on this movie, and he completely breaks it down like scene by scene, and it's absolutely just brilliant. So and then that made me like the movie even more than I already did. So that's why it kind of stuck out to me.
No, I totally get that. I do want to check it out, because I love the Kaufman, Charlie, so Oh yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
All right, so what do you got for number 3?
Number 3, this has got to be on your list. It has to be. If it's not, I'll be very, very shocked. My number 3 goes to Before Midnight.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So, Before Midnight. Me and Chase has talked about this trilogy probably since, I don't remember. I think we praised this trilogy way too much, but you know what? It's deserving. This is hands down one of the best, if not the best trilogy ever. Um, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, Richard Linklater directed it. This one came out in 2013, and the cool thing is, like, the first two films were really great because you didn't know what was going to happen in either one. And then when this one came out, now that they're a couple and they have kids, you think everything's going to go well. Ho, ho, ho. No, 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 no. It does not go well. Because once they get to that fucking hotel, everything becomes so goddamn real to the point where you are just clinging onto your seat. And this is a romance movie. This is a romantic drama. The dialogue in this, as similar to the first two, is just absolutely enthralling. This got nominated for the Screenplay Award. Linklater co-wrote this with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, as similar to what they did with the second one. This isn't my favorite one in the trilogy. My favorite will always be Sunset. I think that's easily my favorite one. But
like
this is
before Sunset has got to have one of my favorite like closing pieces of dialogue ever. You're gonna miss your plane.
Baby. Yeah,
I know.
Baby, you're gonna miss your plane. That's just amazing. And also, that one was basically shot in real time. The movie's like 80 minutes long, takes place in 80 minutes. This one is like an hour and 50, but it doesn't take place in an hour 50. It's insane. It's just insane how you could get so mesmerized by just people talking, because usually when people talk, you might get bored, but this is just so interesting. And if this is the last one, and I know there have been some recent reports that they, Ethan Hawke's like, we might do another one. And, how long has it been? It's been 4 years. So usually every 9 years. So in 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a fourth before movie. But if this is the legit last one, I'm not going to be mad about that at all, because it leaves you thinking, like, it leaves you wondering, are Jesse's, oh God, what's her name? Celine?
Mm-hmm.
Celine, right? Yeah, Jesse and Celine. Like, are they still together? Like, what's happening? It's just all around a fantastic film, and this whole trilogy is incredible. Easily, Richard Linklater's, his masterpiece for sure. Like, I love all three of these films. Binged all of them like in the weekend, and I was very impressed. And this one was a solid conclusion. And it's weird because when you think about it, like, the first one was distributed by Castle Rock Entertainment. The second one was distributed by WB Independent Pictures, and this was Sony Pictures Classics. And also, Richard Linklater had never done a Sony Pictures Classic film, so like this was something really different for him. So I thought it was really cool for him to do a film with the studio. And yeah, Before Midnight, one of the best romances ever made. This whole trilogy's probably the best romance ever. I love it all. My number 3.
I am gonna pass. So my number 3, I'm gonna go with your 5. Moon is fantastic. Like, you want to watch a powerhouse performance that led the charge in 2009, right?
Yes.
I just blanked on the year for some reason. I was like 2011. I was like, no, that's not right. 2009. Yeah. So Sam Rockwell got robbed of an Academy Award nomination. That's for damn sure, because he carries the film. We're not going to spoil what happens, but something happens where Sam Rockwell kind of discovers maybe possibly another person on board. That literally means nothing, and that didn't spoil anything, so I said may or may not. Maybe it's Kevin Spacey's AI that pops up. I have no clue, but maybe something comes on board, and he starts to go a little crazy because he's stuck on this station for many, many years, and so he kind of is going a little stir crazy. So you start to maybe wonder, okay, maybe is he dreaming all this, or is he seeing shit, or is he actually seeing what he's seeing? And so it kind of just plays with his emotions, and it kind of fucks with his head. It fucks with your head as you're watching it. It's just a very kind of like somber little psychological thriller that could and really just kind of dominated that year for me in terms of indie films, and introduced us to Duncan Jones and this pretty much proved that he can direct a movie quite well and really keep up that tension throughout and really never let go. Keep you interested the entire time. Never have any like downtime. It's just a tight knit script and a tightly edited movie. It will definitely keep you guessing because you'll be like, "What the fuck is going to happen?" when you find out what he discovers. And of course, Kevin Spacey, really great as Gertie, and him and Sam Rockwell actually have oddly enough great chemistry together. But Sam Rockwell completely sells the movie for me. He just, I just don't understand how he didn't get nominated. Like, I'm still confused to this day because he carried the fucking movie. I wish the movie would have made a little bit more at the box office, but like I said, I'm glad that people are starting to like come out and like watch it. That's the one thing I can give Warcraft credit for, is that it will probably make people go back and want to watch Duncan Jones's previous films, which is great because both of them are good, but Moon is even better. So definitely a movie that shouldn't be spoiled. Shan't be spoiled on this show. Just go watch it for yourself. It is a great little sci-fi thriller, and I think it will definitely stand out to you. So that is my number 3. All right, so we're getting into our top 2. Now, I have an inkling, a tickling in my fancy. A little birdie is whispering into my ear that I already know what Brian's number 1 is. Now, I've already passed on another movie. So Brian already knows that movie's in there somewhere. But he also knows that the movie that he's thinking about right now is also on my list. But where? Where is it at? Is it number 1 or number 2? Is the one I passed number 1 or number 2? Which way am I going to go? Now, Brian already knows mine, but I don't know his runner-up. I know his number 1 because that's a given. So, Brian, I'm going to take a stab at it, and I'm going to say, yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to say your number 2 is the other Woody Allen film.
See, Blue Jasmine's incredible. It's fantastic. That's not on my list.
Oh, son of a bitch.
It's in my top 10. It's fantastic. My number 2. See, if Joel was on this episode, Joel would probably know what this film is. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen this particular movie. This is probably a film that, to be honest with you, I don't know if anyone's even seen this movie. It's something that all cinephiles should honestly watch. I watched this in my Film 1 class freshman year of college. I had no idea what this film was. I was watching it, and I was like, I hate that I've never heard this movie. This is a film about a film. And now, it's not necessarily about a film that's like, well, no, this is actually a movie about making a movie. I can't believe that not many people have seen this. I understand it's not for everybody. I believe it has a Shout Factory release on Blu-ray. Honestly, this should be a Criterion release. This is such a Criterion movie. It's called Living in Oblivion. It came out in 1995. It's directed by a man named Tom Dicillo, and it stars very young Steve Buscemi, Catherine Keener, and Dermot Mulroney, and it also happens to have Peter Dinklage in his first role ever. So yes, this was before Game of Thrones, like 15 years before Game of Thrones. Here's the thing. So this movie chronicles 3 parts, all taking place within the course of one day, from the perspectives of different people while making this independent film. This film is what making a movie feels like. You see the pain that goes through every single person on set when they make a movie, whether it be the actors, the cinematographers, the sound crew, and of course the director. Now the director is played by Steve Buscemi. the lead actress is played by Catherine Keener, and the cinematographer is played by Dermot Mulroney. And Peter Dinklage appears later on in the movie. I'm not going to say where, but he appears later on. This movie is so for me. Like, I said this recently when we brought up Saving Mr. Banks. I appreciate when we get movies about films or about making films. I always have a fond appreciation whenever I see on the big screen or even on TV how a movie comes to life. And this is just really cool. Like, it's really unique and original. It's super funny. It's really dark when it comes to its comedy. And it's just really all around clever. And all the performances are fantastic. Steve Buscemi, Steve Buscemi is one of the most beautiful looking people on the planet. I'm obviously being sarcastic, but this performance is so incredible. Like, this is why Steve Buscemi is an incredible actor. A lot of people don't really give him the benefit of the doubt. He's an incredible actor. Like, not just from like Boardwalk Empire. He's been a fantastic actor for the better part of like 30 years. Catherine Keener, I think this was one of her first roles, and first of all, she's really gorgeous in this movie, and second, she's really sweet and cute. She's just a struggling actress who just wants to be in this movie. And then Dermot Mulroney, he's very cool and very likable here. I just think it's a really unique film and one that a lot of people need to check out. And as a filmmaker, I really enjoyed watching this, and I hope more people get to check it out, because I'll be honest, when I was looking up Sony Pictures Classic films, I forgot this was one of them. And the reason why I put it up so high is because not only do I think it's one of the I honestly think it's one of the best films I've ever seen. And I just think it deserves to be talked about. Like, could I rewatch it all over again? Honestly, I could. I could watch this movie over and over again and never get bored. It's a really short movie, too. It's not, like, a long movie at all. It's only 90 minutes, and it was shot on a $500,000 budget. So, it's a cheap-looking movie, but, that's kind of the point, because the movie does touch on budgets and cutting people and all that stuff. So it's impressive. The movie's incredible. I think a lot of people should check it out. And Chase, if you haven't seen this movie, do yourself a favor. Find it somewhere. I don't care where you look for it. I don't even care if you bootleg the fucking movie. Just check it out, please. Like, it deserves a viewing from everybody. Filmmaker, film fans, what have you. If you're in love with film, you gotta check this movie out. Living in Oblivion is my second favorite Sony Pictures Classic film thus far.
I have never heard of it, but I looked it up while you were talking, and I'm already hooked from the first line. It's a dark, independent comedy. Sold. I love dark comedies, so why not? And, of course, I'm always interested to see early Steve Buscemi before he decided to go or jump on the Adam Sandler train. So, it sounds really great, and I definitely want to check it out. So, this is where things get a little sticky, well, a little hard, if you will, because there's two films that I have seen from this sub company that I would consider that will probably go down as some of the best of all time. It was really tough to determine which one I liked more. We have talked about both of them to death. Now, I already know that what I'm about to say is going to shock Brian. It'll probably shock the world. But I am going with my number 2 as my favorite film of 2014. I'm going to go with Whiplash. And now Brian looks like he just had a heart attack. Now, hear me out for a second. Listen, I love this film to death. I've seen it like 5 or 6 times, and it gets me every single time. Got one of the best climaxes in history. The Oscar from J.K. Simmons was warranted. What a great, demanding, terrifying performance that I still love to quote to this day. The cinematography and the editing has such urgency to it, such precision. It just sucks you in from frame one all the way until it's done. It is one of the quickest movies I've ever seen, and I love it to death. But my number 1, it wraps it up. I mean, listen, if you can get me with a good trilogy, I'm all yours. But that's my number 2 is Whiplash. I don't need to say anymore. It's a perfect film. It really is. And so is my number 1 pick in my eyes. But, Brian, does this cause your heart palpitations to kind of eradicate a little bit, or are they slowing down now, or like are you still shocked? What's going on?
I'm so shocked because I thought you would put this as number 1, but it's totally understandable that for once, actually, a list that involves Whiplash, it isn't your number 1. It is kind of crazy, but I don't know why. I had to put it as my number 1. It's honestly, the more time flies by, it's starting to go into my top 5 films of all time. This movie is just... I've seen this movie so many times. I did one of my final projects for college on Whiplash, and it's just... It's insane. Like, it's insane how much we bring up this movie, but it simply is, honestly, not only one of the best films of the decade, it's one of the best films now of all time. Like, this movie is destined to be a classic. I think it's already somewhat of a classic. It's going to go into the books when you're studying film. Like this, I mean, it's one of the best edited films ever.
If you want to be, I was just going to say, if you want to be an editor, this is it. Like, if you want to know how to fucking edit a film with such ferocity and such precision, I swear to God, you're going to learn so much from it, especially that ending climax, which is like fucking 10 to 15 minutes long. And it doesn't even seem like it, like, because it's just edited so well.
Yeah, it's like, to me, there are 2 films out there that I think if you want to be an editor, these films you should watch. Social Network and Whiplash. I think they're 2 of the best edited films of all time. Whiplash has incredible editing. Tom Cross, he's actually good friends with one of my film professors, which was very cool when he told me that, because he told me that after he found that I saw La La Land, which Tom Cross also edited. So, Whiplash is just incredible. There's nothing else to say. If you haven't seen it yet, what's the matter with you? I mean, come on. This movie's been out for 3 years, and if you haven't seen it, I mean, come on. There's not one person that I know that doesn't like this movie. Everybody I know that has seen this movie either likes it or loves it. There's no one I know that thinks it's just okay, bad, or terrible. Everybody loves Whiplash. It's hard not to like this movie. It is a painful movie to watch at times. It's very hard to watch. I will be honest with you guys. When I first saw this movie, I was in tears and I was terrified. It was, in my opinion, the scariest movie of 2014. And
I don't know. A month later, Foxcatcher came out, and that was
also Sony Pictures Classics,
which is a pretty terrifying film within itself. So I think like they dominated that year for sure.
Oh yeah, totally. Like that was great. Like that whole like fall season was dominated by Sony Pictures Classics by making 2 of the most terrifying movies of that year. Because also like Enemy and Under the Skin came out earlier that year, which were both A24 films. So like you gotta give credit when credit is due. So Whiplash is my favorite. It's I wanted to actually put Living in Oblivion as my number 1, but I was like contemplating because I've seen Whiplash more times. I've only seen Living in Oblivion twice, and I've seen this movie about like 15 times. I've seen Whiplash so many times, it's hard to count. It's just the best. So Chase, go ahead and explain to us why Before Midnight, which is a great choice, is your number 1.
Okay, so when you make a film that's a really great romance film that relies on 99.9% of dialogue and it sucks you in, it's wonderful. You make that same exact story with the same exact characters 9 years exactly to the day, and you have your characters grow up and you're still sucked into the story. That's wonderful. Then you do another 9 years and these characters grow up, mature from the first film, and you're still invested. That to me is one epic romantic story. And Before Midnight completely just solidifies this entire relationship for me. I watched all 3 movies in one night. I will always just kneel and worship Adam Bilberry. That motherfucker introduced me to these movies. I watched them all because of him, and I will always be thankful for that man. Listen, Before Midnight, it it takes what you know from the first one and completely transforms it into like another world for these characters, because they're mature now. They have children. They're running into problems as adults versus their first encounter where they were, these innocent young children, basically, just kind of talking to each other, getting to know each other. Now they're dealing with real life problems, and it really starts to affect their relationship, and you really feel for them. What Brian was talking about with that hotel scene, it's like, when you see them argue, it's almost like seeing your parents argue, and you're like, I don't want this to happen, because I know that their love is pure. It is there. It is strong. But right now, they're going through a rough patch, and they're almost about to quit. And it's dialogue like that and situations like that that suck you into the story. And the way it ends could be considered a conclusion, could be considered something really depressing. Either way, from start to finish, just like its first two predecessors, it relies heavily on dialogue. You get to know them even more than you already do now that they have a kid, now that they're kind of getting older and they're kind of having regrets and really getting just frustrated at each other. It's like a train wreck that you don't want to happen. And you're sitting there as an audience member wanting them to work it out because you believe in love, you believe that these two can make it, and you want them to succeed. But their problems are so imminent in this film that there's almost no turning back. They've gotten to a point where all these problems just kind of built up, and they never resolve them. And like I said, it's like watching your favorite couple just argue, and it's just one of the most saddening things you will ever see, especially when you watch the first one and you realize that their love is just it's just so great. It's young, it's exciting. They're going through their honeymoon period even though they're not together. You already feel like they're together. Then the second one, they're not even fucking together. They're just talking, and at the end of the second one, you realize that, yeah, they can't fight this shit anymore, and then they go after one another. And now when we get to the point where they have a kid, and they're talking about real-life issues and whatnot, it's very strange to see them kind of grow up, but you know that you want them to last, and the performances are out of this world. I cannot fucking believe that they recite all this dialogue and make it seem as natural as it can. Ethan Hawke is one of my favorites. Julie Delpy is amazing in it. They have wonderful chemistry, just like they did, 18 years ago, and before Sunrise. And then, of course, Richard Linklater's direction, and just treating this story like a play, but making it also seem cinematic and very magical and romantic as well. So I cannot believe that Warner Brothers dropped the ball. Were distributed by Warner Brothers. This one was distributed essentially by Sony. What happened? Like, you obviously liked the first one. You liked what Linklater did. You gave him a second shot 9 years later. What changed your mind for the third one? Like, why couldn't you just, I don't know, complete it? But I guess we wouldn't be doing this episode with this as my number one then, because now that Sony Pictures Classics was like, well, I'm going to give them a shot to finish this. And, of course, here we are. So, hey, listen, if they do another one, it'll be 9 years from now, or from that point, which means it'll be 2022 whenever our next one comes out. Brian, I'm going to pitch you something. I'm going to pitch you the fourth before movie. So this will be the last one. And once again, I have no basis around this. This is pure speculation / my own little fantasies that I hope Richard Linklater is listening to, because he's a Texas native. So, sir, I am on your side. All right, so Brian, here's the fourth before movie. I want one of them to be dead in the opening film. I want one of them to die from either cancer, car crash, whatever you want, whatever is your preference. I want the other to sit there and kind of mourn their loss of essentially their loved one. I want their kid to be older as a teenager so they have someone to communicate with throughout the movie. I want them to start dating other people after a period of time of mourning. And then I want the film to be intercut with flashbacks giving us like the last like few months of their relationship, or hell, maybe even starting before midnight, showing a progression through time and seeing like just their final days together. So you interweave flashbacks with one of them communicating with their son and whatnot. Do you think that would be a pretty good story option for the fourth one?
Yes, that's perfect. And seeing what Linklater could do, I know that he would pull this off tremendously because he's one of the best filmmakers ever. I would love that. I think that sounds perfect. I mean, if they go a different route, I'm sure they have something perfect planned. If they have even started writing the script, Linklater, Delphi, and Hawk, I'm sure they've meshed some ideas. That would be a really cool idea. If they do end up doing this fourth one, I don't know what they're going to do. Honestly, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do, but that idea does sound pretty fucking epic, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I know the whole flashback thing is not for everyone, but I think that you could pull a lot of great emotional weight if you open up the movie with one of them already dead and the other like severely just crushed. Then them talking to I believe it was a boy in Before Midnight, and so they'd be talking to their son as a teenager, and them kind of just like it'd be like almost like Blue Valentine, where it's intercut between the present and the past, and they have completely different tones because obviously the future will be a little bit more dour, and then the past will be a little bit more hopeful, but still seeing problems and whatnot. But that is the progression of the characters. So and their relationship. So I think it would make total sense. But I don't know. Richard Linklater's probably got a script somewhere, so we'll see it in 2022. But I'm telling you right now, on this marking August 23rd, 2017, that is my prediction for the next Before movie, and it will be the last one if they do make it indeed. So what about you guys? What is your top 5 favorite Sony Pictures Classics list? Besides Brian's second pick and my Synecdoche, New York pick, a lot of ours were modern picks, and it's not because we chose that. It's just, to be honest with you, I've only seen a handful of Sony Pictures Classics movies, and a lot of them are modern. I'm sorry. Maybe a couple late 2000s, but yeah, most of them are 2010 on up. It's just, it's the way it goes. But getting into honorable mentions, I got a list right here, so I'm just going to go down very quickly. Kung Fu Hustle. What a weird, funny movie. An Education with Peter Skarsgård, my first ever Peter Skarsgård experience. And actually, what's her name? Brian, help me out. Carey Mulligan. It was also my first film with her as well. Very good film about a teacher having a relationship with a student. Let's see, Midnight in Paris. Take Shelter. Good old Jeff Nichols with Michael Shannon, one of my favorites. That is a wonderful film about paranoia. Check that out. Celeste and Jesse Forever. A very good little dramedy from Rashida Jones and her writing partner, and they are actually going to be writing Toy Story 4, and that also stars Andy Samberg, so check that one out. Blue Jasmine, Foxcatcher, I will give a nod to because that movie's awesome, and Steve Carell deserved that Oscar for supporting, and Channing Tatum should be nominated for lead. The Red Turtle came out last year, really enjoyed it, and the last one I'll give a shout out to The Son of Saul. That was a really great Holocaust film. I know it's really weird to phrase it like that, but it's a really well done, kind of emotionally impactful film that I saw at Fantastic Fest. That was shot on 35 millimeter or whatever, and was projected that way, and it completely just like elevated the experience. So I will definitely give a nod to that one. And I believe that's it, because that was all I had written down. And I've got the Wikipedia list, and I'm just kind of scrolling up, just making sure real fast that I didn't miss anything. And nothing's really poking out. And it's like Brian said, like Sony Pictures Classics, out of the ones I've seen, I mean, I'll get to the one or get to the couple I didn't really particularly like, but most of them have been pretty decent or at least great. So, yeah, that's all my honorable mentions, and then we'll get to our dishonorable mentions very soon.
Yeah, for me, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, like that's another one that I'm shocked that Sony Pictures Classics distributed. That one's fantastic. He's one of the best martial arts films ever. I'm going down the Wikipedia list as well. Gosh. Kung Fu Hustle is very good. Layer Cake, which I brought up earlier. Matthew Vaughn's one of his earliest films, and starred Daniel Craig. This was like the year before Casino Royale came out, so this was obviously right before he became Bond. Junebug, which was Amy Adams' big launch into stardom. She even got an Oscar nomination for this movie. Capote, Philip Seymour Hoffman's Oscar-winning performance. Also from Ben and Miller, who directed Foxcatcher. Oh God, I forgot to pronounce his name. The animated black and white graphic novel, Persepolis. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, something like that.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I haven't seen Syndicate. The Whackness with Josh Peck and Ben Kingsley. That's a great coming-of-age film. Pretty underrated. Rachel Getting Married with Anne Hathaway, directed by the late, great Jonathan Demme. I have seen The Education. It's very good. It's really, really good. The Imaginarium of Dr. Panarsis with Heath Ledger. It was his last movie, and that one was quite interesting. Animal Kingdom with Jackie Weaver and Joe Edgerton. It's now a very popular show on TNT starring Ellen Barkin. I haven't watched the show yet, but I've seen this movie, and the movie's pretty fucking wonderful. I want to see Incendies. I just realized that Incendies, it's I think it was Denis Villeneuve's first movie, so I do want to check that. I just wanted to bring that up just because I've seen it everywhere. Take Shelter's great. Carnage, the Roman Polanski movie, that one is so fucking underrated. No one has seen it, and it makes me sad. It's so fucking good. And then, if you love Christoph Waltz and you want to see him laugh, he laughs he laughs like that throughout the movie. So it's great. The Raid movies, both of them are awesome. Smashed with Mary Elizabeth Winstead. She plays a alcoholic, and her husband's played by Aaron Paul. Fantastic. It's directed by James Ponsoldt, who later went on to make Spectacular Now and The Tour, and this year's critically acclaimed film, The Circle. Blue Jasmine, Kill Your Darlings with Daniel Radcliffe. Foxcatcher. Son of Saul is amazing. It's incredible. And that's it. I really want to watch The Red Turtle. I really want to see it, but I can't find it anywhere, and I don't want to blind buy it because I'm worried I'm not going to like it. I don't want to assume that I'm going to like it. So that's it.
If you lived around me, I would let you borrow the disc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into dishonorable mentions. This is easy for me. Two of them that are very meh, almost terrible. The Comedian with Robert De Niro from last year. The Bronze also last year. All right, so here's the deal, and I'm gonna make Joel really, really angry, but that's okay. Listen, folks, I love me some Paul Verhoeven. Probably has created some of my favorite films of whether it be the 80s or 90s with RoboCop, Starship Troopers, Total fucking Recall, and hell, even as a trashy ass film as it is, Showgirls. The guy in Basic Instinct. This guy's made some really entertaining films. But the movie I saw last year, Elle, is absolutely appalling. I don't want to ever talk about this again. This is it. Listen, out of all the ones I've seen, I haven't seen that many, but that one stood out as one of my least favorite films last year. Oh, dear God. Like it's like I want you to imagine like a Lifetime movie, but amped up to the nth degree. It also like it just really weirdly fetishizes rape, and I just didn't like it at all. It's just such a weird turnoff of a film. Like, Paul Verhoeven, what the fuck are you doing? And I know that everyone loves Zell. Everyone masturbates over it. Everyone just like has a very stiff Jimmy in their pants when they think of that. They're like, oh my god, Elle, I fucking love that film. I don't know why. Like, teach me your ways, sensei, because apparently I'm missing something. So, no on that one. That's it for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen Elle, so I you know, I wanted to watch. I was gonna watch it before the Oscars because Isabelle Huppert was nominated for Best Actress, and I wanted to see all the big Oscar films and everything. And I like Paul Verhoeven too, but it's weird because like I remember when you told me you saw this, I think I remember you said to me you went to 2 screens the day you saw it. I think you saw La La Land that morning, and then you saw this in the evening, and you're like, oh, La La Land was great, and then this was shit. And I was like, oh, how is this movie shit? Everyone seems to love it. I'm curious to know your thoughts, and I haven't gotten around to watching it yet.
Yeah, don't. It's okay. You can skip it. Like Sony Pictures Classic actually, like, I love your company, by the way, because they sent me all like some films that they were pushing for Oscars last year. They sent me The Eagle Huntress, which was a documentary. They sent me The Red Turtle, which I watched. Tony Erdmann, which Joel watched. Julieta, which Joel also watched. And then they sent me Elle, and I was like, I really don't want to watch this again. I'm good, fam. I'm good.
So yeah, I don't think I'll ever see that. So I don't have a film from them that I hate. My least favorite film from them is actually a Woody Allen film, and it's a film that came out in 2014 called Magic in the Moonlight. I found this movie to be really stupid and cheesy and very formulaic. It starred Colin Firth and Emma Stone. It just really didn't interest me all that much. It's like, so like Colin Firth is like this magician in like the 1920s, and then Emma Stone's like an admirer of Colin Firth. I don't really remember it all too well. I remember going to see this in the theater because at the time, this was right after Blue Jasmine. I was like, oh my god, Blue Jasmine, Woody Allen's next film, it's probably going to be great because Blue Jasmine was awesome. Oh my god, hype. And I was let down. I honestly didn't really find this movie to be that interesting. I thought it was really not that funny. I didn't really find the romance that compelling. And I thought the performances were good. Because, these actors are great. Colin Firth is a fantastic actor, and Emma Stone is obviously fantastic as well. This was like shortly after Colin Firth had won the Oscar, and Emma Stone this was the same year that Birdman came out, so she was Oscar nominated for that. And then, 2 years later, won the Oscar for La La Land. I just really didn't find this movie to be great because, like, I was like, oh, Woody Allen had just released 2 great films back to back. Oh, wait, To Rome with Love was okay, but it wasn't like terrible or anything. But this film was pretty stupid. I didn't really find any enjoyment throughout it, and it was also a big snooze fest. But luckily, after that, he made Irrational Man, which I actually enjoyed, and then he made Cafe Society, which I thought was great. And I cannot wait for the film he has coming out this year. So, yep, Magic in the Moonlight is my least favorite film that this company has done thus far.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously need to watch more from their company, but time. But out of all the ones I've seen, Elle just made me infuriated. And Brian's right. What a weird lineup it was, because I saw La La Land and I was like, oh man, what a great little movie. I wonder how the next one's going to be. And then Elle just like made me just lose hope in humanity. So all right, so that will do it for this week's episode. But let us know what are some of your favorite and least favorite Sony Pictures Classics films. I'm curious to hear your answers down below. I'm not going to ask Brian what we're doing next week because here's the deal, guys. I will go and say this right here on the air. Brian is getting older. I know it's weird, but he's getting older, and he's going to be advancing in his college classes. Now, it's going to be tricky to do this weekly. But I can tell you that if it isn't weekly or every 2 weeks or every whatever, we'll do them when we can do them. I will just say that. So life happens. Brian is going to have harder classes. He's got a girlfriend now. Brian has friends to hang out with. He's enjoying his college life. So don't be harping on the boy if we don't do these weekly. And plus, I'm getting older. I will probably get another job. I will probably be busier as well. So whenever we get to them, we will get to them. But when we get to them, Brian, I like doing them. And we do them for you crazy motherfuckers out there, which we all love dearly. But please let us know down below your thoughts on this week's episode and just, everything in general. So, So before we go, Brian, where can the peeps find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Film Junkie Brian and on YouTube at Brian Suffield. And honestly, I've been getting a lot of messages recently saying, "Hey Brian, where the fuck are your reviews at?" Well, like Chase said, I've been so busy this summer. I'm gonna make a recap video in a few days. Talk about all the movies I've seen since my last review, which was, I believe, Wonder Woman. And it's going to be great. And then once school begins, I'll try to get back into the game reviewing-wise because, I'll be honest, I do miss reviewing movies on YouTube, but I've been so busy, and also I've been focusing on writing, so, I've been very busy, so, it's a little hard for me. But, you can find me on YouTube there, and you can find me on Twitter at Film Junkie Brian.
Yeah, so like I said, don't be harping on Brian. We've all been there. It's like most of you guys that are listening are around Brian's age, so you fucking know. So there you go. And I'm extremely old, and I've already been in Brian's shoes, so I understand. So yeah, so whenever we see you guys next, we will see you guys next, and I guess that will do it for this week's episode of Top 5 Saturdays Live. I'm Chase Lee.
And I'm Brian Suffield.
That's fucking right. And we'll see you guys next time whenever the hell the next one goes up. Peace out.